New here, welcome to my channel. We do everything with development. We do front end, back end development here. This is a course that I'm building. It's part of a series. The link will be in the description below. The link of the playlist. This is the fourth video in the series. I had the fourth video where we build this beautiful landing page that you're seeing on the screen. We do it step by step. The second step of this video series is where I build a blog that allows you to write a blog in MD file. You host the blog on GitHub. See, here's a sample of it. What are we building today? I think the third part of the series is where I did the courses. So here is where if you can come here and search for the list of courses that you're interested in, you can filter them. Yeah, so this is 3-part series. Like I said, I link it in the description below. If you're new and you want to start from today, feel free to clone from main. Something else is I separated them into different branches. If you're interested in the landing page and you want to start from the landing page and you go into the second part of the series, just clone the landing page branch. There is also another branch for the blog, which is the part 2. Today is the part 3 here, is where we build the courses page like I showed. Or if you're starting from today, feel free to clone main. What are we building today? Let's get ahead with the demo. So we have a dashboard. Here is the dashboard. As you can see, within this dashboard, we show the students who have purchased the recent courses. And there's also an overview for the sales, how much money instructor have generated over the course. So as you can see right now, it seems to be a mix of both because our dashboard is very simple. We're just having the dashboard here, but this is going to be role-based. So since we're using Next.js, we are going to use role-based. Once we're sending this navbar or this route, it will be protected and only instructors will have access to this route. A normal user will not see this option, and at the same time, they will not be able to access it. So this is something that we're going to do as part of the series later, where we're going to use Next.js to protect our route. So let's get back to the demo. So as you can see, I have this card which just shows the total revenue, the students that are enrolled in the course, the sales that we have. Here I just have this temporary revenue here as a placeholder. I'm going to replace this later to decide whatever information I want to show. It either could be the number of videos, and so on. So here the recent sales, the students who have purchased the course recently. Right now, all this data I'm generating using faker.js. There's nothing real here. Yeah, so the next part is here. You can switch and you can see the list of courses that an instructor is teaching. So if you're the instructor, these are your courses that you are authoring. So it gives you access to change. So every course belongs to a project. Here it's an e-commerce project. This course, both of these courses belongs to e-commerce. There's another course for course management. So this is how an instructor is going to know which courses there, and they can try to modify it. The other part is add course. So since this is dashboard, instructors should have the ability to add course. If you're new here, in this last part of the series, I discussed how we're going to be using Vimeo to host our videos there. So what we'll be doing, we're going to use Vimeo, upload our videos, get the URL, and then come and save the URL on our database. So as you can see, here is the add course, that beautiful panel that opens on the side, which allows you to add a course. So here you can just drag an image or just upload an image from the file system, which is just a course image. So as you can see, going back to the demo here, it's a little bit blurred, but you can see every course has an image, course has a name, the course also have a title, and there's also a demo video URL. So if we go back to the courses page, you can see, let's do that actually. Let's not say if we go back. Let's just click on any one of these courses here to navigate to the courses page. If we navigate to the courses page, there is a demo video that is shown. So that demo video, we need to put the URL. So like as I'm demoing this course, if this is a course that someone is going to sell, they will have to record a video to show that they are demoing that course. So let's do this. Since right now I'm not doing any filtering, I'm just navigating there. If we connect our backend, then we can do filtering. You can see here is the demo video URL. So right now it's showing that I need to log in, and I think I am already logged into Vimeo. So for some reason, I don't know why this is showing up, but I can show you, probably show another tab where I'm logged into my Vimeo. So as you can see here, this video that appears here is the demo URL. And if you scroll down here, you can see this is a section. So it means we should have the ability to add a new section. Within a section, we need to add the title here, which is the title of the section, and also a video URL that is associated to that section. Let me go back to dashboard here. Once I return to dashboard, add cost, you can see, let's say the cost name for the demo, the cost name that I'm creating, let's say e-commerce. This is an e-commerce cost. Then a little bit description about the cost block. And we can have a demo URL. Let's say, for example, let me look for, let's say, this URL here from localhost here. You can see this is our demo URL. You can choose a project that this cost belongs to. In this case, let's say it's an e-commerce project, for example. The reason why we have this is because a project can have multiple costs, like I explained, and I'm going to explain again for those of you who did not watch this video. Let's say I'm building an e-commerce project. I will build the front end in Next.js. That's going to be a separate cost. I'm going to build a backend in Spring, for example, or I'm going to build a backend in Prisma. So all those costs belongs to the same project. In this case, an e-commerce project. So this could be one of the, let's say the cost name is e-commerce Next.js or e-commerce Prisma, for example. Because the reason why I'm building multiple framework so that it will cater for people who are learning, who are new to backend development. They will see that the same project is built in 3 different frameworks. They can now weigh the pros and cons on which one to go for. On those people who are interested, who are in one, like for example, the Java developers who want to learn Prisma, or the Prisma developer who want to learn Java, and so on. So you can select a project, you can choose a framework. For example, this is a project on Express.js, for example. Then here comes about this section that I was talking about. For example, let's say this was on Spring, we can do pagination. Let's say this section, it's about pagination. So within each section, you can add a title and then a video URL. So if you go back to the demo, you see that each section has a section name. In this case, the section name is going to be pagination. So within the pagination, maybe something like intro to pagination. Intro to pagination. So if I have intro to pagination, that intro to pagination will need a video URL, and that video URL is going to be posted on Vimeo. So we'll just paste in the video URL here. If you want to add another section, so maybe this title, I'm going to change it into add a subsection instead of video URL. So if I click on it, it will give me the ability to add. So I can add as many as possible. But if you notice something, they all belong to one section. So I can add a new section. For example, I can click here and this will add a new section. So in this new section, this was pagination. Maybe the next section will be filtering, for example. And then I'll add filter, then add different section. Once I create the course, then I will have the course is going to be ready because the videos are hosted on Vimeo. Why did I host the videos on Vimeo? Because this is a personal website where I'm teaching people to code. So I do not see the need to build a streaming service from scratch. If you're doing an e-learning platform where we have more people, more instructors, let's say you have more than 10 instructors, what I would do is I would go buy an S3 bucket and then find, I think Amazon have a CDN, put a CDN on top of that S3 bucket, and then provide the ability for people to upload that, and you can just save the metadata there. I do not see the need to do that. If you are building an e-learning platform that allows multiple, feel free to go ahead. Look at AWS documentation. Let's add it. So you can delete a section here. So you can see if I click this, it deletes the section. Here we can also delete this guy. For example, it will go. We can also delete, and we can add as many as we can. We can also upload an image. Then we'll create course. Right now, nothing is connected to the backend. This is just a front end demo. So yeah. I think that is it. So what we're doing today is the dashboard, and I think there's going to be another series where we're going to talk about adding a new course. So without wasting more time, let's dive straight to coding. So this is the demo, and I'm running the project on 3000. So once you clone the project and run yarn dev, it is going to be running on 3000. So for now, I am on 3001 is where the demo is. and 3000 is the project that I'm going through with you guys today. So yeah, let's dive straight to coding. What are we doing today? Let's see. There's a route called dashboard. If I click dashboard, you guys will notice that we do not have dashboard. So the first thing to do is we created this dashboard. It's just to create a route for the dashboard. So I'll come here where I have this route here. I'll create a new folder. So this is a shortcut of creating a folder and a file at the same time. So if I click here, I will call it dashboard file. So if I click, let's say page.tsx, what this is going to do, it will create a file on the dashboard. It will create, as you can see, it creates a folder and it creates a file. So I'm using SFC, which is a shortcut to just create a functional component, and I'll call this dashboard page. Dashboard page, to make sure that everything is up and running. Let's just render this. Where's my autopost? So within this div, let me just render an H1 here. We will remove it. We just want to make sure that this route is getting navigated. So let's do dashboard. Click on save. Go back here. Let's do this just to make sure that we have them all on the same screen. There you go. So we have this dashboard here. Now the thing, so here is we are having this hydration issues because some of the components are client side, and then I showed a mitigation on how to solve this in one of the tutorials, but we'll go over it before we deploy this project. We'll fix all these issues. So yeah, let's create a new component. This was on the app, as you can see, because this is a route group. So within this route group, I just call it courses route. Within each of these route group, I have this block, contact courses. I have a layout here if you're new, and then if you just want to know what's going on, I have a layout here. So within this layout, I'm rendering the nav bar, which is this. I'm also rendering the footer, and I'm also rendering the shoulder here, which is this dashboard here. So, but the content of the dashboard is going to grow bigger, and this will grow. Otherwise, I could just give it like a fixed height, for example. But there's no need for that for now. We will come back to this and we'll fix this. Yeah. So we have this dashboard. We have the pages. The next thing to do is just to start coding. So create a new file inside components called dashboard. Here it will host all the components that we needed for the dashboard. So for now, I already have this dashboard. I think I can just go ahead and import this dashboard here. Still need to do this actually, because it seems like whatever this is doing, this dashboard is already doing that. Let me do control. Yeah, install it from dashboard. Everything, nothing is expected to change here. So I'll come back to this dashboard. So let's go back to the demo before we write any code, assuming that the demo is just the design that we have. So something that you notice is we first have this text here, which is a dashboard. We also have this add button here. But for now, we are not building because the add button is tightly coupled to the panel here. So you can see. So I'm just going to place a temporal text here. And then in the next tutorial, we're going to dive deeper into the add into this panel. So the panel uses React hook forms and so on. So I want to have a dedicated video, so I'll explain that in details, because form is very common in any web application that you build. Not any, but most, let's say 50-60% of the web applications that you're going to build, you're going to have forms. So this is one of the most efficient way of handling forms. Next is we have this. So what we're going to do, I think this would be a flex container in the first place, and then just space the items in between. So just use space between two. Here, this is it's a component that is coming from ShadCN. Also, we use ShadCN for all the UI. This is a component that is coming from ShadCN. So we need to install tabs here. We'll just have tab. Here, the way to do it would just be to use grid. So here, we're just going to have a component here, and then just use grid just to make sure we space this up. This guy is also simple. Here we're using a library. This chat is using a chatting library, which is very beautiful. So if I just switch, you can see how the nav bar animates. So cool. Yeah. So we're going to have this, its separate component. We're going to have this as its own separate component. So the first thing to do is we can start coding. So to do that, we need to go to our dashboard. Just give me one sec. All right, let's go to ShadCN and add tabs because we do not have tabs. So let's just Google. You can just Google ShadCN. It's ui.shadcn.com. Click on components. Why are we installing tabs? As you can see, I showed you guys in the demo, we have this, which is just tabs, which allows us to switch between the overview and the courses. So if you go to tabs, you will see the CLI to install. If I click on tabs, so this is what we need. The only thing to do is copy this code, come back to your terminal that is running the project. I'll just move this here. I'll stop this. I'll clear my terminal and I'll install it. So just paste the command. This will install tabs for you. Once we have tabs, then we're good to go. So I think I just need a confirmation here. There you go. Let me start the project before forgetting, because it's very easy to forget starting the project. Actually, while that is going on, let's come back to our dashboard. So within the dashboard, let's start implementing our dashboard. So the first part of the dashboard is we are going to have a div container, and within that div container, let's just create this as the parent div container, and then we'll come back to this. So let's say I have this div container. Let's give it a class name. Within this div, let's say I'm gonna say that it's a flex class. As you can see, I made a flex column. This is just flex column is just setting the justified content. Let me close this so you guys can have a better view. Once I have this, so let me put on the other divs that I needed. So here is going to contain the title for now. Right now I'm just putting this random text. And then the next one is the one that is going to contain the tabs. And each tab will have its own content. So for example, I'll just say these tabs for now, and we will change it. So let me save this, but okay, let's run our application back. And that's, okay. So while that is running, I'm just going to move this, go back to our application, reload, just to make sure this loads it. So once that is done, I will just, so without wasting more time, in the interest of time, you guys don't want to sit down and just watch me type things. So I'm just going to bring in the code for here, and I'll explain it. So this, for now, I'll just replace it with a span. Because in the next tutorial, we are going to do this. So I'll just call this an add cost ML. Add cost, I will save this. What is happening here is I have a flex. It means I'm saying the container should be flexed. And here is just justified data, meaning whatever content that I have within this flex, spread it out. So it means if I have this as a container, as you can see here from the demo, it's just spreading them out, and then it's giving them a space of between. That's why we have this guide, and we also have the add cost. Right now it's a text, but we're going to change it. So the next thing to do is the tabs. For the tabs, I will just bring in the code for the tabs. So basically, let me just explain here, so that the code would make a little bit more sense. So tabs is coming from ShadCN. They have this tabs that allows you to switch. In their examples here, they're switching between accounts and password. If I click on code, what happens is tabs, they have a tab and then they have a default value. So this default value is telling you which account to select. So in this case, there's two options. There's account, there's password. So you can see these are the three things that happen. Because the default here is account, so it's going to be account by default. You could change this and put it to password. So within the tab content, you give it a value. So depending on which value is selected, it will show that content. In this case, for example, if I put here value equals to account, if I click on account, the account value will be selected. The same way for password. You can see there's also going to be another tab content which has a password. So you can see this tab content has a value of password. Just render them inside. When you click it, ShadCN behind the scene is responsible for switching your content in a very beautiful way. So I'm going to bring in the code for what we need, because this part of the tutorial is going to be very short. Where is my code? You are getting replaced with tabs. So we are missing the imports. Let's bring the imports. So I just bring in the imports. after these two guys, we will bring the components for that. So for now, we do not have the component, but yeah, this is very similar to what was on the documentation. The only difference is I am using different text. For example, I have overview and causes, and here if overview is selected, the overview will show up, and if the causes are selected, then this component will show up. So what we have to do now before we save is to build these components here. So there is a component here that we need that is called dashboard. So let's just write the import for it and then just write these components down. So I will just bring in the imports here. So the imports here is we need to create inside here called dashboard overview. Going back, let's just clarify. So I have dashboard. You see overview here, .tsx. So I have dashboard overview.tsx. And the other component that we need is the instructor courses. So this is the page that shows the courses that the instructor is teaching or is selling. That's it. So I'll just do this. So for the courses overview, I am just going to, there's still more components that are needed, but maybe we can start with the instructor. It seems like the instructor courses is more straightforward. It's very simple, very, very, very straightforward. Because right now we're just rendering the course. We will change this guy later. So here is just the courses. We already built this courses component from scratch in one of the tutorials. I think it was the part 1 of this series where we built the landing page. So something else that if I go back to the demo, you guys will notice that if I change the courses here, what I'm showing here is the name of the project, right? But if I go back to courses, it will have a different text. For example, it has enroll now because this is the site that the users are going to be seeing. The students who are going to be buying this course. So they will have this enroll now button. But if I go back to the dashboard, this is the instructor. So they don't need to enroll in that course. So that's why we have this, right? So that's why this thing is changed. So what I'm doing for now is I just changed and added a few more things here. In this case, I added a props that says hide the enroll button. But when we connected this to the backend, we don't need this prop anymore. All what we are going to do is just do a Boolean check to see if the current user who is logged in is an instructor. Then we can change that text. But for now, let's go in here and then just change this that says, let's say hide enroll button. So is instructor. I think this is the right. Is instructor. So this guy is going to be Boolean and it's going to be optional so that we don't disturb the other component that we have to go and pass it. And let's use the same one. We have courses card. That is the one that is rendering. Let's come to courses card. Pass the same as props here. Save it. Can just do is instructor. But before we do that, let's come to courses. Save it and then just pass it here. Since we are having it as props, let's destructure it. Is instructor. If instructor, we just pass it down. That's cool. So we go back to the courses card. You can control click, command click, depending if you're Windows or Mac. I'm on Mac, so I'm doing command click. So here, that now that we have this, it's is instructor, we can destructure it. So what we need to change is we need to have a conditional render here where we render the enroll button or we render the name of the project. But there's something that we need to change. So we need to go back to the types. Within the types, when we declare the types in the last tutorial, which is the part 3, we did not include the project name. So that is something that we miss. I think we defined project, but we did not include it here. So one way is we need to come here and then just give it a project ID and then just give it a project name here. So give it a project ID and then a project name. The reason why I give it a project name because I'm only interested in the name here. And if I just give it the ID, it means I will have to fetch this from the backend, and that's not something that I want to do. So in the interest, I would rather sacrifice space in for time, basically, for fetching. That's why I added just the project name. It's also good to have the ID here, but I'll add the name and the ID as well. So I'll save this. We're going to have some errors because within the place that we're generating our data, it's going to expect this to be passed. So for those of you who are new, we're using Next.js and we're using this to generate data. So if I come back to where I'm generating this data, just test as before we connect it to our backend, I'm just going to paste these two guys that we have. So for project ID, it's just going to be a UUID. So just put this guy here. Project name. So for now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to declare constant. So this constant that we are declaring is just going to be inside. Let's do one thing. We'll do this. So it's going to be inside constants. There's a file that I have called constant. So let's just declare this constant there. Let's do this index.tsx. So I'll just extend it. So I've just called it projects, but ideally, that's why I left a comment here. This should be coming from the API, right? Because the API is now going to tell me the projects that I have. Which of those projects do I want to add a cost to? So I just have to, very simple, I have a label and then I have a value to it so that I can know it's like e-commerce, sport management, whatever. They're all testing. What I'm going to do here is Faker allows me to choose. So there's an option that allows to randomly select from the array. So I'll say Faker.help us .array elements. So in this way, it's going to select one of those in the project. So you can see it gives me the option. If it doesn't give you the option, now I'm going to say .valid. If it doesn't give you the option, very simple. Come here and then just import it. Import projects from @constant. If it gives you that, we have the value. Now, once I save this, it means the project ID and name will be included. So one way we need to come here and just do some conditional rendering. That is instructor. We already have this. If this is true, then what do we want to do? We just want to render a simple span. Basically, that just say that gives us the cost name, because now the cost name will be available. So I'll just render a span and I'll say cost name. Else, then we can render this button. I mean, this guy is a student. So we just save this. I will save this. So we need to go back to our dashboard. We quickly, inside courses, let's put is instructor here to be true. But like I said, we're going to change this. This is not the most ideal way. Is once we have the instructor user, we will now come and do a Boolean check to see if instructor is true. I'll save this. So we have this guy ready. I think there could be more improvement. If you want, you can add in a search here. You can also add in filter option. I think we already have this option in the courses page. So if we go back to the courses page, I think, yes, we have this option. So this is something that you could do as well. So we can just copy this code here and then just add it in those places so that we will have the option to also sort this course by text, also filter these courses by the projects as well. So I think that would be cool to have inside here. Allows you to sort for the course and so on. So the code for that it's already in the project. You can look for it, and then I think the component is called search input and combo box. So you can just look for those components and then just bring it here, right? And yeah. The next part is the one that is going to be a little bit complicated, which is the overview. So let me see, where do we render it? So here's where we render the overview. The one that we just did is the teaching catalog. And now we're going to do the overview. So for the overview, you can see we have a lot of elements here. But something that first comes to your mind, if this was a design that you're implementing, you notice something that this component has something in common. Like all of them are the same. So to prevent code repetition, what we have to do is create a simple component and then just loop through to create this guy. So this would also be its own component just for separation, code separation. This will also be its own component. So the first thing to do is just to do this, guys. So to do that, we will need to create a component. So I will just bring in, give me 1 minute. Let me bring in this code for the overview. So for the overview, I just bring, and I'll explain this, guys. Don't worry, we will go through this code one by one. So for the overview, you guys will notice that we're missing a few stuff. One of them is the start. So this guy here, we're going to create a new component that we call start. So let's do that now. Let's create a component for that start. So we will just call it dashboard starts. It's a very simple component. It's just renders a card, and then it's just called this dashboard start.css. So this dashboard start.css, it's a very simple component. All it does is renders a card. So let's go through this component. We are rendering a card. This card is coming from ShadCN. We've used it in our previous tutorials for the same course. Within this card here, we're rendering a title. We're also rendering an icon. And we're also rendering the content, which is just these two tags. So as you can see, this was very simple. So we have this guy here as the title. We have this as the description. This one as the amount, and this as the description. So we're passing them as props because we want to reuse this component. That's why we come back to props. I have a title. We have start. So let me just close this guy a little bit. Yeah. Yes, I should close it. Let me side check. Let's move these a little bit and then close it. Minimize this. Notice that this is what I call title, and here is a start, which is representing whatever standard we want to show here. We also have a string and an icon as well. The icon is just a JSX element, so that when we render this component, we can just declare these guys as constant, and once we connect it to our backend, we will just change this and then just fetch the data from the backend directly. So yeah, this component is very simple. I don't think we need to spend more time. Within the content of the card, we have a text. We're just saying we want this text to be twice the size, font of bold. We want the text to be extra small. For us, as you can see, that's why this text is extra small. I'll save this. So the next part, once we have this component here, you can see we're missing two other components, which is the recent sales and the overview. So we need the overview component. So to do that, let's create the overview, which is here. So let's create another component that we're going to. Here we'll come back to this because we're generating some data that we use. Yes, we use it here. We will talk about this guy later. Let's do overview. So within overview is also a simple component which is rendered in the chart. We don't need that for now. Let's do recent sale. Recent sale is just rendering text. Let me do recent sales. By the way, recent sales is this component here. So I may create a new file inside here, call it recent sales. Recent sales.tsx. I will just bring this code here. So in the interest of time, I'm not typing that. But what are we doing in recent sales? It's very, very, very simple. We just have a div, and then we just say that we need a space. We need a white space of 8. So within that div, we're just looping through recent sales, because these recent sales obviously is going to come from the backend, and it's going to come in the form of an array. If it doesn't come in the form of an array, we can prepare an array from it. But that is the reason why I do this. So if I have this as a requirement, I just don't put 1 or 2. So I could have just rendered 1, 2 all the way till 5, 6, 7, but we will have to change it. So I would just rather do this and then make sure I don't put this component again. I will just pass in those props and it will handle it. So what are we doing here? We're just rendering a basic avatar. Here it's a div ID is required by React. Before that, let's check sale. So for sale, I give it a type of ID. Probably this ID will be coming from your backend, or you might be generating a UUID. There's a name, email, and an amount. So as you can see, here is a sale, name, email, amount, and there's also going to be an image URL as well. So we might actually come and modify this later and then just add an image URL here. Well, for now, I'm just putting this ShadCN URL. So once we connect this to a backend, connect it to an actual user, we can be reading those URLs and then just putting it here. So yes, this component is a flex and item center, meaning put everything in the center of the container. We render this avatar, and we also render a div. So this div, I'm giving it a margin left of 4 space of y. And these guys are just for the text. I just have 2p tags that I style, and the amount I just prefix it with a plus here with the string literal. So we have this component ready. I'm going to save it, it's this recent sales component. The one that is remaining is overview. So for overview, we will need to install a library for the overview, because we are using, within overview, we're using a charting library called Richart. I think it's called Richart. Let me see. Yeah, so the library is called Richart. So what I'm going to do, I will just create the component for overview, and then we'll come back to it. So call this guy overview.tsx. I'll just paste this code and we will install this library. So it's using this library called Richart. So what we have to do is we have to come back to the terminal. Within the terminal, press Ctrl C to stop it from running, and run npm i Richart. So this will install the charting library for us. So once this is ready, we'll hit the application to get back running from there. But while we wait for that, let me explain what is going on here. Let's see, that is still installing. Here's just the data. We'll come back to the data. Very simple. So Richart, okay, went down installing that. So I'll just run yarn dev. So the library exposes a component called responsive container. So if you're using anything that related to bar chart, you can use this responsive container. There's another one for pie chart. I think it's called responsive pie chart, something like that. Let's go to charts and let's go back here. So if you're interested in adding more chart here, just go back to the chart. Let's come here. Yeah, so we do examples of guide. So within the guide, getting started. Yeah, so here I think I saw this prop somewhere. I was just reading the documentation just 3 minutes before starting to record here. Boom, can't find it anymore. Shouldn't be there. Should be somewhere in the props. It's telling me that there are more components that they expose that we could use. Oh, it's here. I think it's called, it's the pie responsive container. So if you're doing anything that is related to pie chart, you have to use this pie responsive. There are more containers that are available here. In my case, I'm using bar chart. That's why I just say bar responsive container. For the data, we're just showing, for each month, we're just showing the total amount that we have. So right now it's hard-coded, but everything is going to change, because this data, for the amount of money that comes from January, we are going to be computing this. Right now, we're just using random number to just generate for each of this month. Whatever name that we saw here, it what shows up in the chart. Coming back to the chart, there's x-axis and there's also y-axis. For the x-axis, I just give it a data key, and then the data key is name, which is this name here. For the y-axis, it's going to take the value directly. So for the ticker formatter, it's taking this value. This is another way of formatting. If you don't want to render if you want to add more things to the value, then that's what this ticker formatter is. Just adding the pros. And then we have the bar chart here. So I change the color. You can change it anyhow you want. Here is the radius. You can play with the radius. Yeah, seems like we're getting really close. I will save this. If I come back to here, we're missing one component, which is the dashboard card. What is a dashboard card? So basically, these guys here are not the one. Yeah. So here, this is a card. As you can see, the title is the same. It can have a description and also the content. So the only thing that differs here is the content. So what I did is I created a card component just to make sure that we have the code a little bit cleaner. Within that card component, I pass in this guy as props, which is the content. Here also I pass in this as props, and I also pass in this one here as props. So what we have to do that is missing is we need to create the dashboard card, which is the dashboard card, which if we have more things that we want to show, we can easily show it. So the dashboard card is very simple. It's just nothing more than a card component from ShadCN. So here is the dashboard card. I will save this. Let's go through the dashboard card. I think I have the title. Description is optional because this guy has a description. Recent sales. This overview doesn't have a description. So this is coming from a design directly. This is the decision that I took. Okay, this is optional. Yes, it has it. And then the content, because it's a JSX element, right? We are rendering a whole stuff. So I just pass in the context as a JSX element. What I did is very simple. Cut. I have the header. Within the header, I give it a style. I just change the text. Here also I change the text to white, render the description, and render the JSX element that I pass it. This is just the structure. Whatever I'm doing here is the structure. I will save this. If I go back to the overview, so you guys can see for the most part, we are mostly done, but we haven't explained this component yet. The overview component is just a combination of the components that we are building. That generate fake cells that is missing. For the generate fake cells is, if you're new here, we're using faker.js to generate this guys. So I'll just bring in, let's go to test.com. So here I'm using faker.js. We are going to completely delete every part of this code once we connected it to the backend. We'll probably be using it to mock because we are writing tests as well. What is happening here is, remember this type that I defined for cells. I'm having ID, name, email, and amount. So I'm just using faker to just generate these guys. I'm calling generate faker. Here, if I call this function, it just returns a single object. So what I'm doing here is just using array.from, and I pass it a length, which means repeat this as this many times. And every time you repeat it, call this function. This is also the same thing as saying for, let's say, let me just declare, like, let's say, let sales be equals to, or const sales is equals to, just for those who are not familiar with functional programming. And then we can just do a loop here. We can just do, say, for int, for let I start from 0 till I less than count, I plus plus. Within each of those, we will say const cell is equals to, then we call this function and push it to this cells, then return at the end of the time, return this cell. It's doing the same thing if you're not familiar with functional programming. So that's what this guy is doing here. For each of these count, call this as this many times. I'll save this. If I come back to where is the overview? Now the error is gone. Generate sales, because we're using this to show these recent sales. We're just generating all this information. They're all fake information that are coming from the internet. But yeah, now remember when we create the stats, I said that we're going to pass props to the stats. That's why this dashboard stats here is. So we have this dashboard start. I just have an ID, title, text. All these guys are hard-coded, but we're going to change it. I also have an icon here. So what I did is, this is the first part that we render in this component. I just wrap it in a React fragment. You can put a div here, feel free. That works as well, but I don't see the need to put a div, so just wrap it in a fragment. Within here, let's explain this part here, which is, I think it's just the responsive side of it. I'm saying that if I'm at MD, it's grid by default. So grid by default, it renders 1 per row, right? So it's basically grid columns 1. And all I'm saying is, if we read medium is 768 pixels, then render 2 per column. If I read large, then render 4 per column. So that's why if we do the demo here, look here. If I get to medium, then it will render 2. It renders 2 per medium. If I go all the way small, it renders 1 because it's 1 by default, right? 1 by default, go auto medium, render 2. That's what this is doing. If you don't have anything, this is also the same thing as saying grid columns 1, but we don't need it, right? Because that is it by default. So if you want to have better understanding, return that, just leave it there, so that for just to have a better concept. So this is why it starts. It's 1 by default. I said if we get to MD, make it 2, and if we get to large, make it 4. So if we get to MD, it's now 2. If we get to large, then make it 4. That's why we have that 4. So that's what this is doing. So we just loop it through this component, passing the key. These are the stats that we have. The next part is just these cards that we have. So I'm also using grid here as well. So I just saying that, let me do this here. It's using grid as well. I will explain and then we go back, whatever that is happening here. By default, so this is exactly what I was explaining here. Even if I did not put this here, by default, it is grid columns 1. And I'm saying if I get to large, what I want is, I want the first item that is rendered to take one third of the screen, and I want, so this 2FR, I want the second item, which is this overview that is rendered, to take twice as much as the first one. So let's say if it is 3, if the width is 9, the second one is going to take 6, and this guy is going to take 3, because that's what this is doing for grid app. Whatever this is saying is take twice as much as the space. So that's why if you check here, this guy is taking twice as much as the space for the recent, because the recent says we don't need a lot of space, but for this we do need. If you want, you can put 1-1. If you put 1-1, it's just going to split it 50-50 when it gets to large screen. And here we just render this to dashboard that we created. Because the description was optional, here we can pass in a description. And remember the content here, I'm just passing in JSX directly for the JSX to be rendered. And we have all these 2 components. So I'll hit on save. Once we have these, did we think now if we go back to our component, let's go back to dashboard and see if we have dashboard. Here we do. We did not save this. So let's save here. Once we save this component here, then I expect, are we running it? Yes, we are, but we did not reload. Because remember when we install recharts. So I will run it again. And this might take some time because it's going to build the page again. But let me see if I forget to explain anything here. Anyways, I think I covered it for the most. If you have other options, come and add it here, for example, then add a new tab content and give it a value. If that is triggered, then it will automatically select it. There you go. Ta-da! So we have that something is missing. We are not having our charts. So finally they're here. Okay, because the charts are rendered on the client, so that's why we're having this issue. Whatever that was rendered on the server is different because the chart component, it's a client component. Because it has some animations and stuff. But yeah, we're getting closer. We're really getting closer. We do need some patterns around here. So let's see if our responsiveness works. Yeah, seems like our responsiveness is also working here. Yeah, so this part is ready. The other part is just the teaching catalog is also ready. So, but let me give this a pattern between this dashboard and the tab. I didn't like how it was that close. So either I can do this, let's say p-top of 6. Padding top of 6. So take 6 space from the dashboard. This way is like too low. So what is padding 6? 6 is 24 pixels. Okay, I have that. That's beautiful. I think I have the pattern. This we don't need to capture much. It's just this component that's getting rendered on the client. So yeah, I think this part of the tutorial is done. I'm going to have a next series, which is part 5, where we're going to cover in details for the art course. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. My channel is very new. One way of helping, one way of supporting the channel is by liking